China, it's truly a vast and fascinating country. 9,600,000 square kilometers of land, 3 million square kilometers of seas. And it's never still, changing with the rotation of the seasons. To fly like a bird is to see things that are beyond your imagination. You visit places you would never before have dreamed of. And even familiar places, when you look down on them from on high, will assume a completely different appearance. We'll take you to explore places close at hand and far away. To witness nature and geography, humanity and history. Join us as we embark on a unique journey across the sky. This is Hainan, China's southernmost province. Hainan is an island with a contiguous sea area equivalent to 1/4 of the whole country's land area. Here in the South China Sea also lie the Nansha Islands, which mark China's southernmost point. To the north, the Jiangxi Strait separates Hainan from the mainland. It's there that our journey will start. First, we'll explore how volcanic activity forms the island, and then we'll fly to a city bursting with life. Along Hainan's northern coastline, we'll come across 3 lighthouses, each with its own distinctive appearance. The Jiangxi Strait is 30 kilometers across. In prehistoric times, Hainan was part of the Chinese mainland. Around 60 million years ago, some lower-lying land was submerged, creating what we know today as the Jiangxi Strait. Later, a series of land collapses and volcanic eruptions caused Hainan Island to expand northward. Evidence of this ancient volcanic activity can still be found in northern parts of Hainan. In an area covering just 100 square kilometers, there are more than 40 volcanoes. Ma Anling is the largest of these volcanoes. Ma Anling comprises 2 relatively large craters and 2 smaller ones. Popularly, it's known as the volcano family. Ma Anling is part of the Haikou Volcanic Cluster Global Geopark. Today, the volcano is covered with greenery. From the foot to the summit is a pleasant 70-meter walk. Ma Anling last erupted around 13,000 years ago. However, it's not classified as extinct, but dormant, so it's possible that one day it may become active again. It takes 50 minutes to travel by ferry between the mainland and Hainan across the Jiangxi Strait. This ferry is transporting vehicles and passengers. There's even a train in the hold. Before the crossing, the train was divided into sections so that it could be secured. In port, a railway line extends to the ferry. The carriages are moved onto it and coupled together again. The now complete train's first stop on Hainan Island is the city of Haikou. Haikou is the closest city on Hainan to the mainland. 90% of goods entering and leaving the island pass through its port. The Nandu, the island's longest freshwater river, empties into the sea here, a fact that gave rise to the city's name. Haikou has the meaning emptying into the sea. This is Qilou Street. The ground floors of the buildings lining it are occupied by shops. Above are apartments. The street gets its name from the protruding structures. Qilou means street overhung by buildings. This style of architecture originated in Southeast Asia. Hainan people have never considered the sea to be a barrier. On the contrary, they view it as a pathway to the outside world. For several centuries, there's been a flourishing trade between Hainan and Southeast Asia. People here brought back new commodities such as coffee, as well as the new styles of architecture. They even introduced the use of cement in house building. These days, the most popular sea routes are used by people from the mainland coming to Hainan. In 1988, Hainan was established as China's largest special economic zone. In no time, people in their tens of thousands began crossing the strait to Haikou. Attracted by the commercial potential offered by Hainan's new status, they set up businesses on the island. By doing so, they were following an historical precedent in China where people have traditionally moved to other parts of the country in times of economic difficulties. The power of the sea should never be underestimated. Hainan's northern coastline is its most dangerous. Here, to ensure that sailors reach the island safely, more than 20 lighthouses have been built. This is Hainan's oldest lighthouse. With its distinctive red and blue stripes, it's been a feature of Lingao Cape for over 120 years. In that time, it's been witness to history. It was built in 1894 by the French to support them in their attempt to seize control of the Jiangxi Strait. 50 years later, Hainan was liberated from nationalist control by the People's Liberation Army after soldiers landed here at Lingao Cape. Much of Hainan is forested. It's true to say that coconut palms have a certain exotic appeal. But it's the plain-looking mangroves that have the far more vital role to play. Here, at ebb tide, the shore is claimed by crabs and ducks. This 15-kilometre stretch of forest in eastern Hainan is made up of more than 2 million coconut palms. Hainan is so closely associated with palm trees and coconuts that many people believe they've always grown here. Legend has it that the ancestry of all these trees can be traced back to a single coconut brought back from the Malay Peninsula. The reality is probably not so different. Several thousand years ago, some mature coconuts found their way into the sea and began to drift along with the ocean currents. As coconuts die within 2 months of leaving the tree, if they were to survive, they needed to make landfall quickly. One of these coconuts arrived on Hainan Island. It's from this one coconut that all the island's vast palm forests are descended. As we move on from the coconut palms, the sea begins to dominate the land. And it's here that we find another forest, this one in water. This forest consists of a variety of plants belonging to the species Rhizophoracea. Despite their green colour, they're known as red trees. These trees are... The mangrove forests are supported by their animal inhabitants. At ebb tide, ducks flock to the shoals to feed on the small fish and shrimps. Locally, they're known as ducks from across the sea. Wherever there's something to eat, creatures are never alone. The Mycteris brevadactylus also come looking for food at ebb tide. Each of these crabs weighs just 2 grams on average. Being so small, they're able to move very rapidly. They're usually seen in groups. This makes them appear more intimidating, so that predators will be scared away. The sea rises and falls, and as it does, it provides people with natural produce. At ebb tide, various fresh aquatic delicacies are presented for collection. The farther the sea withdraws, the more ground it leaves for people to collect its produce. Fishermen who are familiar with the local area can find shellfish a little distance from the shore. Fishermen live off the sea in the same way that farmers live off their land. From ancient fishing villages to holiday resorts, the landscape here is constantly changing, and so are the people's lives. Next, we'll travel a short distance to the Nanwan Peninsula, and we'll greet the fishermen there. Then we'll fly to one of China's top tourist attractions to witness the variety of fascinating ways in which the sea can provide entertainment. This is Boao town, originally a small fishing village. The name Boao means many fat fish. In 2002, statesmen, businesspeople and various experts from all around Asia gathered here in Boao for the first Forum for Asia. The event was so successful that the town was designated the forum's permanent home. Since that first forum, ordinary fishing villages have become modern cities almost overnight. Such rapid change has also been seen in other parts of Hainan. First, we'll get an idea of what this island used to look like. A nearby peninsula is home to some very different inhabitants. An essential principle of survival in nature is to adapt to your environment. The Eld's deer demonstrate how this can be. Flying southward, we approached the small tropical island called Wuzhizhou. Many of the visitors here come for the diving. The surrounding sea is remarkably clear, so it's possible to see to a depth of 20 meters. After some basic training, beginners can dive down 10 meters or more, where they can appreciate the wonders the undersea world has to offer. At sea, the wind can change direction every 20 to 30 meters. Some yachtsmen prefer to sail close to the shore where the winds are generally less unpredictable. Others choose to sail further out to sea to avoid the high waves. People have found numerous ways to derive entertainment from the sea. It seems there's no limit to the ways you can enjoy yourself. The sea gives people a sense of freedom. And this freedom encourages the pursuit of speed. Some aircraft bound for Sanya circle around the city before landing so that the passengers can view the statue of the Guan Yin of the South Sea. It's the biggest statue of the goddess in the world. The planes then land at Phoenix International Airport, 23 kilometers east of the statue. Nationally, Sanya is experiencing particularly dramatic change. People here know they must move fast if they're to seize the opportunities on offer. In the same city, however, one group of people is leading life at a much more leisurely pace. They've come from far away to enjoy the peace and quiet. These two contrasting aspects of Sanya make it a city of two tales. From the modern city, we move to the central mountains, where we'll find that Hainan has much more to offer than its stunning blue sky and sea. We'll seek out the province's first pioneers and take part in a summer festival on the Nandu River. We'll then move on to the eastern part of the island to witness the nourishing power of the Wanquan River. Turned their boats upside down to serve as their houses. While the story is probably the product of someone's imagination, such boathouses are actually a very practical idea. Still, today, the Li craft their houses to suit the environment. The roof is designed to protrude as far as possible. This keeps out both sunshine and rain. The Li people are skilled at gathering betel nuts. There's a saying, Li men climb trees as fast as monkeys. And the trees in question are betel nut trees. A mature betel nut tree grows to a height between 10 and 30 meters. Harvesting the nuts involves considerable effort, suggesting that people here must be very fond of them. In the past, the Li people made a living by gathering fruit and hunting. But over the years, these hunter-gatherers turned to farming. The Yahoo terraces are evidence of this change in their way of life. The hot and humid climate makes it possible to grow 3 crops of rice a year. The first crop is ready to harvest around the time of the Dragon Boat Festival. The Dragon Boat races are Hainan Island's most important river festival. In Chiang County, the Dragon Boat races are mostly local fishermen, yet they'll be competing against professional athletes. Dragon boat racing, though a wonderful spectacle, is not a performance. It's a contest in which the fastest boats move at speeds of 4 meters a second. It's vital for the oarsmen to work in unison. Only when the oars on both sides are moving simultaneously can the boat advance straight ahead at high speed. China has more than 7,000 islands, but fewer than 500 of them are habitable. Most are unsuitable for life because they lack fresh water. Hainan is lucky to have an abundance of freshwater sources, thanks to the 4 major rivers that traverse the island. The Wanquan River nourishes the fertile land in eastern Hainan, where most of the island's grain is grown. However, heaven is not always kind to this place. 2 or 3 times a year, the eastern side of the island is hit by typhoons. Even so, the Wanquan River ensures that this is Hainan's second most densely populated region. In achieving progress, the islanders have had to overcome one challenge after another. To secure sufficient food, salt pans were established. To accelerate economic development, high-speed trains were introduced. And to explore the universe, rockets were launched. Key technologies, ancient and modern, have been developed right here on this island. This is the first high-speed railway in the world to trace the coastline of an entire island. The center of Hainan is higher than the surrounding areas. Most people live on the plains close to the island's edge. Hainan has established a variety of transport systems. They connect the island's scattered cities, towns and villages, reaching around 90% of the population. We'll head next to Wenchang, following the route of the high-speed railway. Wenchang is home to China's satellite launch site that is closest to the equator. This location makes it ideal for facilitating rockets' entry into orbit. This is the General Assembly Plant at the core of the launch center. Ahead of a launch, the rocket is moved to the launch tower. Here it's surrounded by towers that act as lightning rods. Beneath the launch tower is a 20-meter deep trench for diverting the heat produced when the rocket ignites. In 2016, more than 20,000 people were on hand here to witness the launch of the Long March 7 rocket. This is the spacecraft that's most familiar to the Chinese public. This year, the Chang'e 5 lunar probe is expected to be launched from Wenchang. Now we'll fly back to the South China Sea. Just off Dazhou Island, we'll find one of the world's oldest sunken ships. Following the fishermen of Tianmen Town, we'll view the South China Sea from the air. And at the end of our trip, we'll discover a rare natural wonder. This is Dazhou Island. Its two sides present two highly contrasting scenes. One side has powerful rolling waves. On the other, the sea is almost completely calm. Hainan Island was an important supply station on the ancient maritime Silk Road. Along its coastline were many fine harbours like that on Dazhou Island. This ancient wreck off Dazhou Island is a fine example of the ships of its era. Although by no means the biggest of those that sank in the South China Sea, it, like the others, was a pioneer in these waters. Chinese people first began to explore the islands of the South China Sea several thousand years ago. Tianmen's fishermen refer to the South China Sea as the Ancestral Sea. Their forefathers, when they sailed the sea in the Song dynasty, did so with the help of a compass. Based on generations of experience, Chinese seafarers worked out the best navigation routes. 600 years ago, in weather, the fishermen take their The Shansha 1 is a supply ship. It plies the route between Hainan Island and Shansha 4 times a month. Yongxing Island. The Shansha City People's Government has its headquarters on Yongxing Island. The islands, reefs and waters around the Xisha, Zhongsha and Nansha Islands are under its administration. The main road on Yongxing Island is 300 meters long and it's lined with banks, supermarkets, hospitals and other amenities. The islands north of Yongxing don't appear to be linked, yet they're called Qilian, meaning 7 interconnected islets. And they are interconnected. Under the water, the 7 islets share a common vast coral reef base. The Xisha Islands are made up mainly of once-living coral. Tiny creatures produced calcium carbonate to form a protective shell. This was how the coral reefs we see today came into being. This is Jiaoshu, one of the Qilian Islands. It's covered by trees. The population is mostly fishermen from Tanman. The infrastructure on Jiaoshu Island has been significantly improved in recent years. In 2009, the islanders set up their own residence committee. We're now leaving Qilian for the Yongle Islands. From the air, this looks like an eye in the sea. Locally, it's called the Blue Hole. The Blue Hole is a natural wonder formed billions of years ago. It was created when glaciers melted and seawater filled a karst cave. At more than 300 meters deep, it's the deepest natural feature like it anywhere in the world. Uncharted territory inevitably tempts people to explore it, but you have to wait for just the right moment to approach the Blue Hole. It's surrounded by islands and reefs, so it can only be entered by boat at high tide. Bathed in the mild sunshine, the sea has become calm and peaceful again. As we fly over this scene of tranquility, we seem to hear the gentle breath of the sea. And now, a fresh wind is on its way. A new era is approaching, and the sea is once again becoming a pathway between China and the outside world.